Well, good morning, everybody. It's feeling like a fall morning out there finally. I love fall, so I have to say that I'm ready. We've got a few more people just joining in and connecting to the audio, so we're going to give everybody one more minute. Go ahead and grab your cup of coffee, and then we'll go ahead and get started with Cloud CMA today. I'm going to show you some great time-saving tips and techniques when using Cloud CMA to make a wowing presentation for your sellers. I'm also going to show you some shortcuts today, and I'm going to show you some of their new interactive features that while you're sitting with a seller, you can do. So again, we'll get started in about 30 more seconds. Grab your cup of coffee, or in this case, your Gatorade, and we'll go ahead and get started. All right, I'm going to go ahead and bump up my screen here. Good morning, Lisa. I can hear you behind the scenes. How are you?
Good morning. I'm good, thank you. How are you today?
I am good. Anytime I get to work with my best friend, even behind the scenes, it's always good.
It is wonderful. Thanks for having me on to help you.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate it. So, for those of you who don't know who you're hearing, not only is she my best friend, but she's probably the trainer who trained me and taught me so much, Lisa Harris. Lisa, say hi from behind the scenes.
Good morning, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well this morning.
So Lisa's basically going to handle questions sort of behind the scenes today, and that'll kind of free me up so that we can go over a lot in Cloud CMA. There's a lot you can do in Cloud CMA. I'm just going to kind of cover the CMA portion today, but we actually have another class called CMA's Beyond the CMA. And what that is that discusses a lot of the other cool functions that are actually hidden in Cloud. Like, did you know that Cloud CMA actually has a great lead generator that you can actually post out onto social media? And it simply asks, would you like to know what your home is worth? They can click on it and immediately be connected to you. You can actually send them information about yourself. Maybe if you I don't know, I've lived in the area a long time, or maybe you want to let them know you paint homes for Habitat for Humanity. You can actually have a template that's all set up that immediately goes out and it alerts you right away. So a lot of cool things you can do with the lead generation tool. There's also some great buyer information. You can create great property reports. You can create buyer tours. So we're going to touch just on the CMAs in Cloud CMA, but it does so much more. So let me start off there. We're actually going to start off where you can watch this recording and where you can find those other classes. As an agent of the last 25 years, I will tell you, I take a lot of classes, but I may not do a CMA every single month. I wish I would, but I may not do a CMA every single month. So it's nice to know that you can go back and you can watch this class at any time. Usually takes me about 24 hours to get it uploaded, but you can find those classes. And I'm going to bump this up a little and make it a little bit bigger. You can find those classes right inside of Paragon. And where I always say that Paragon under resources is kind of like your agent toolbox, this is where you can go and you can find this class after we record it, so that if you've missed anything or you do have to step away or you maybe need to see something again, you can always go back. So you're going to go to resources, and what we've done is we've created an education area. If you wanted to watch this class, all you have to do is click on recorded webinars. That's going to take you directly to our YouTube channel. And the easiest way to find it is just click on videos and it will show you all of our classes. So maybe you want to know more about the Collaboration Center. Taylor and I just taught a great create a listing from A to Z. Lisa teaches an amazing property records class. She talks about the integration and some of the freebies you get with BS&A. She also will take you through Realist and how to farm an area and create mailing labels. It's an awesome class if you haven't seen that before. The class is in here under recordings, but you can also take it live with her next month as well. So that's where you can find the recorded classes. Again, you go right to Paragon. You go right to resources where we put all the tools that you have access to, and you're going to simply go to that education center and recorded webinars. However, if you want to take Lisa's live class, or you want to see some of the exciting new classes we have coming up, and we've got some specialty classes here too. One of my favorites coming up is Taylor, who has a degree in photography and communication. She actually teaches a 3-part photos class. You can find the upcoming classes under resources. And what I tried to do was build a flipping book or an online catalog that talks about all the different classes that we offer. So all you have to do is flip through, and let's say you wanted to take that other cloud CMA class that I talked about with the lead generation, and the property reports. You can actually just click register here, and it'll take you right to that registration page. If you want to take Lisa's awesome class, November 13th, that's the realist and BSNA learning all about property records. Um, all you have to do is click here and you can get signed up for that class. Well, we do have some specialty classes, like the real estate photography I was mentioning. It's actually a three-part class, just so you know. The first class, I actually thought I took pretty good photos until I took Taylor's class. And there's those hard to photograph areas, like especially bridgeways or hallways. Every time I took a hallway picture, it kind of looked like a short and dumpy hallway, no matter how nice or how long it was. So she shows you how to do things like add more light and aperture to your shot to give your hallway depth and length. And then she also shows you things like how to photograph those powder rooms, the really tiny bathrooms that you're either in the mirror or the toilet is like front and center. We all know it has a toilet, so that's not really the focal point of the room, right? She'll show you some of her patented shots, like angling off the counter into the mirror to get the entire room. She has some fascinating techniques. Remember, all of our classes here at My Real Source are free. And then her third part of that class is one of my favorites. It's called the photo field trip, and we do it in all different areas. But what it basically is she'll take you into a fully furnished model. Last time we did Lombardo's $2 million model. It was absolutely stunning. It was fully furnished, and she will set you up in 8 different hard to photograph areas. When she sets up your tripod, you bring in your camera, you take the photo, and then she'll actually critique it with you and show you how to make that shot even better. So it's a really cool class. We just brought that back. We only offer it a couple times a year, and it is limited. So she can only obviously have so many people in the model at one time and make it effective. So if you do want to get in on the real estate photography class, which starts in November as well, you're going to want to sign up for that one as soon as possible. So the online catalog is really where you can find all of our cool classes. You can sign up right from there, just like you did today for the webinars. Okay, so enough talking about that. Remember, we will record this. You can find it very easily, but I really want to show you this class backwards. And I'm kind of known for teaching this class backwards because as an agent, a lot of times I want to see the finished product first. Tell me what it's going to look like. Is it going to wow my sellers? Is this something I really want to learn how to do? So I'm going to kind of show you this backwards. I'm going to show you the finished product first. And so I'm going to actually start with a CMA that we just recently closed up. And I want to show you this in 2 ways. Now, let me kind of preface this first. You make the CMA the exact same way. So we're going to walk you through A to Z today. I promise I'm going to walk you through exactly all the buttons that you're going to push today to do a wowing CMA for your seller. However, I want to show you there are 2 ways that you can present that. You can obviously present it in a PDF fashion, like you're going to see right here. I'm going to make this full screen so it's a little bit easier to see. So I love the fact that my average CMA using Cloud CMA takes me between 7 and 9 minutes. Now it's going to take us a little longer. It's not going to be a 7-minute class, I promise, because I'm going to show you all the bells and whistles. So really, to prepare for your CMA, you're talking about 7 to 9 minutes. However, there are 2 ways that you can present your CMA. You could present it like this in a PDF. Maybe you choose to print off your CMAs. You could still do that as well. I generally will save it and go over it with the seller. However, they have a new interactive version with some things that I absolutely love as an agent, things that we've been asking for years. Let me give you a good example of one of them. So I remember back in the day, I'm just going to grab this kind of for a visual, but we print off our CMAs, right? Back in the day. And I remember I was going on a listing appointment in Sterling Heights, and I was a big Floyd Wickman fan. Maybe people don't even remember who he was. I loved him. He was a great real estate, really funny coach, had a great program called Sweat Hogs for many years. And he would always say, one-step your listings. Well, up to now, I had always two-step my listings, but I thought I drove by this property that I was going to list, and it was absolutely perfect. Little red brick home, right? Every flower in the front was planted in a perfect row. Shutters were painted. It was adorable. So I said, I'm going to one step this one. I got it. So I created my CMA. I printed it out back in the day. And I then opened the door. And I kid you not, even though everything on the outside was updated, I kid you not, I stepped into shag blue, I mean, Grover blue carpeting, about 5 inches thick. You all remember what I'm talking about, right? And every room had those giant Brady Bunch stick on wallflowers, and they say that's coming back, but it ain't ever coming this far back. So I knew that what my pre-printed price that I had in here was a problem. So here's me in the bathroom, literally trying to rip out pages of what I thought we should list this for because I didn't realize it needed so much updating. Well, in the new interactive version, you can actually hit one button and update your price. You can do things like leave notes. Maybe it's the only house in the garage or the only house in the neighborhood, sorry, that doesn't have a garage. You can also do things like, let's say the seller says to you, and I see some of my favorite people on here. I'm going to use Marietta. Marietta, it's so nice to see your name pop up. Let's say that they say, Marietta, but I don't see Joe Fumagalli in here, and he closed yesterday. Well, Marietta's always very prepared when she goes on her listing appointments. So she may have actually prepared this 3 days ago, and Joe closed yesterday. With one click, Marietta can bring up that house and pull it into her CMA. Now, most of the time, the reason that they're asking about a particular comp that they're not seeing in there is because it probably wasn't a comp you selected for a reason. For instance, it's a 5,000 square foot colonial and they got 1,000 square foot brick ranch, right? Probably not a comp. But do you know how nice it is when with one click you can be going through your CMA and you can pull up that property live with them and say, well, actually, I see it's a beautiful home, but it's got quite a bit more square footage than yours. And it's also considered a colonial, and we're looking for ranch comparables. But just being able to go through that with the seller, I think is huge. And it shows that you know the market. Even if you haven't been in every single property, you can quickly pull those up and go through them with the seller. And that is something we've wanted to do forever. So what you're seeing right here is actually the PDF version. So we're going to go through both versions. We're going to go through the PDF version, then we're going to go through quickly the interactive, some of the changes that you can do with the interactive, and then we're going to go step by step on how to create it. Okay, so this is the PDF version. And the nice thing about when you're doing Cloud CMA and you're using Cloud CMA, your template is already in there. And that's what allows you to do the average CMA in 7 to 9 minutes. So I'm going to turn my fuzzy hair off so you can see more of the screen. I know that big hair takes up a lot, so we're just going to turn that off here so that you can actually see more of the CMA. So the CMA, of course, will bring in your branding, your photo. If you do not have a photo of the front of the home, you can actually either import one. I use one here from tax records. If you've taken your own photo, you can certainly add that. If you haven't, let's say it's 2 hours away, it will actually insert a Google overhead shot. I'm not a big fan of the Google overhead shot. I want it to be a little nicer. So I actually just went into BSNA, thanks to Lisa's great class, and I actually used the public record photo of their home. So a couple of things, I'm going to show you how to do all of that today too. So again, some of the benefit here is for me, when I'm getting ready to prepare to go meet with a seller, the last thing I want to have to do is all of these steps, right? So I created a template right in Cloud CMA, which we're going to do today. And of course, it's got all of my company information already inserted there. Now it looks all professional, but literally I went onto our website, I copied and pasted what was there. It took me about 30 seconds to create my company page. I've made that company page part of my template. So anytime that I am doing a CMA, that's already made up for me. Now, one thing I forgot is my good friend Lisa, who I mentioned is behind the scenes. I know everybody knows and loves her. She's going to be manning questions today. So at any time, if you have a question about something I'm covering, just open up your GoToWebinar panel, which probably is minimized by either a blue flower or a little arrow to the right. And there's a questions box. Just type your question in and Lisa will go ahead and address them. Or if there are questions she's getting a lot, sometimes she'll just jump right in. So feel free to ask questions as we go through. All right, so that company page is created. You can also create a contact me page that just talks a little bit about all of your contact information. One of the things I like about cloud, though, is that you can bring in all of the outside information. And I can't recommend enough doing that. What I mean by that is things like the tax records, all that great information Lisa teaches in her public records class. When they ask me, well, Colleen, how did you get our square footage? I think I have more or less than that. I want to be able to, in my CMA, actually have that page from Realist, have that page from BSNA or public records. I want to have those tax records to show where I pulled up all of my information. I also like to use that because this is a great place to start when you're gathering your comparables. Because, of course, that's going to tell you what the square footage is, how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, how many half baths, when it was built, what type of property it is. Is it a ranch? Is it a colonial? Is it built on a basement? Does it have a garage? If so, what's the size of the garage? And as you can see, by pulling that in, I can see that she has a front porch. It has an attached garage. She does have a deck off the back. All of this, she has central air, what the lot size is, what the style of the home is, a ranch style home. It has a full basement. All of this information is here. Down below, it also shows you things like if the property's gone into sheriff's sale, if it's in foreclosure, if they've recently refied. All of that is right here. That helps tremendously when we're pulling all of our comps. Now, one of the other things you're probably going, well, Colleen, I see you have the realist record in there and it gives you all that information, but then why would you have the BSNA information? And the answer is I always pull both. And the reason I do is every once in a while, you'll find more information. A lot of times I'll find more information in BSNA, but I'll also find discrepancies sometimes. Like one will say it's a two-car garage, and one will say it's a car and a half. In Realist, it also points those differences out between what's in the MLS and what's in the tax record. So, not that I would go by that if there were discrepancies, but it reminds me to ask the question to the seller. Well, I see that the public record says that it's a two-car garage, but on the MLS, they had it listed as a one and a half car garage previously. So, these are great questions. And matter of fact, I swear in real estate, you can't make this up, right? I was on a listing, I was driving over to a listing appointment and I was confused because the municipality record clearly said it was one story. The pictures in the MLS and it had previously expired with another agent, were two stories. And when I pulled up, I could clearly see it was a two-story home. So I had to ask the question. I said to the gentleman who owned the home, why does it say two stories here in the municipality record? And sure enough, he then says, I put a dormer on. I did it myself. And it was one of those questions where you're like, well, did you pull a permit for any of this work? And of course, his answer was no. So it was one of those questions we wanted to address and probably check with the city and make sure that we didn't run into any complications at closing, right? So these are discrepancies that it will definitely point out. And I like to have both because BSNA also has things like floor plans. BSNA also has, I think, a little more detailed information, especially when it comes to things like assessments. I recently listed a home in Warren and it was just a $50,000 home, but there was $1,000 unpaid water bill on that home. And as you know, water stays with the property, so it's got to be cleared up. That was definitely going to affect our seller's net out on this property. So I like to even put things like assessments that you find in BSNA or the outstanding utilities like water. A lot of municipalities are now recording that. And thankfully, in this case, they did because it certainly made a big difference in our net out. The other thing I like to pull into my CMAs is I want to pull in an easy way to explain to the seller what's going on in their marketplace. I am a huge fan of what you're looking at right now. It's called Market Stats. It literally took me, I kid you not, 2 clicks to create this graph to tell my seller what was going on in her market. So let's take a quick look at this. So the home was in Clinton Township. With 2 clicks, I created this graph to show her what the market conditions were right at that moment. What I like here is first on the top, it's residential or single family homes. Down below, it breaks condos out separately. But I like here that when I was sitting with her and I wanted to explain why we could put her home a little bit more at the top end of the price range, I explained that inventory of homes for sale had gone down 42.7% since last year. Okay, so if we look at this, this is a rolling year. Last year, there were 89 homes on the market. This year, only 51. So that shows me supply and demand, right? We've got not enough inventory, as we all know. And so we've got a 42.7% negative inventory. So what does that do to our average sales price? So right up here, our average sales price last year was 271.5. Average sales price this year, hold on to your hats, 321.5. So we are looking at almost 20% difference in what our average sales price is. Supply and demand, not enough. It also is showing us days it takes to close the properties, but this is a really good indication when you're sitting with a seller and you're trying to explain, hey, here's the price range I'm giving you. I think we should be on the high end, and here's why. This is a really easy graph to explain. Same thing with the condo market. You can explain it the same way. Inventory of condos for sale in 2023 in March, 40, only 33, down almost 20%. Again, look at our average sales price, 189 to 235, right? It tells the story to help educate that seller. So I love that. I'm going to show you how to add those in too, but I like it to look professional. I like all of this to be in one spot. I also like to show a map of the comparables that I've selected. And then using the comparables, I also like to have the into, wow, that is some really blue, just sort of caught my eye there. So when you're going through the comparables, I like to have, of course, all of the property information from the MLS. But when Mr. Schmagegi that I'm sitting with says, well, Colleen, apparently they really liked that blue because it's on their front door, it's in their living room, it's in their dining room, and it is even in their bathroom. So apparently blue was their color. When I'm going through these photos, when Mr. Shingegi says, yeah, but do they have a, do they have a finished basement? I want to be able to go to those photos and immediately say, well, actually they do. It looks like they do have a fully finished basement that is, no kidding, watermelon red. So can't make it up, only in real estate. All right, so moving forward, again, I like to display all of the photos just because if they do ask me a question, and if it's not actually in the remarks that the agent has prepared, I want to be able to show those pictures and say, well, actually, yes, it did have an attached garage just like yours, or it did have a finished basement, and I want to be able to go through that, or in this case, an above ground pool. Does it have a patio? I can see all of that. There's also some pre-written graphs, but what I like about Cloud is maybe you don't want to use all of this. Maybe you just want to use, maybe you're kind of meat and potatoes like I am, and you just want to use the basics. You can do that. Maybe your house needs a little more updating. So maybe you don't want to show the actual sold property analysis. Maybe you just want to show your suggested list price. You can do that. Kind of going back to my example of the blue shag carpeting. If I know everything's selling for way, way over asking, but I know that this particular home needs about 30 grand in updating, well, that's certainly going to be reflected here. So I might want to just show my adjusted or my actual suggested price. You can also do adjustments. I'm going to show you some great tools that you have access to do those as well. But this clearly shows the things were selling for 105% of their list price. 13 days on market was the average, and it does have the breakdown. But again, if you choose not to display that, you can do that as well. Then the analysis, what the suggested list price, again, this is where you can put in your own suggested list, or you can even put in your own suggested list price range. So maybe you want to do 330 to 340. You can actually do that as well. It does break down the average price per square foot. Then you can also, this is a question I seem to always get. So for me, instead of trying to answer a question every single time, I like to bring it up right in the CMA. So this is a very simple page that I created that just talks about my brokerage syndicates to 400 sites. Most brokerages do these days. And instead of them saying, Colleen, where are you going to advertise my house? Are you going to put my house on Zillow? I mean, that's the first question they ask you, right? Is it going to be on realtor.com? How are they going to find my house? Instead of having them ask that, I actually bring it up right in my CMA by just inserting a custom page that I created. By the way, if you're interested in this page, most brokerages, a lot of them typically share to the same sites. You're always welcome to reach out to us and we'll go ahead and share this. So don't feel like, oh my gosh, where did you get that? I want it because I'd be more than happy to strip off my logo. And as long as your brokerage syndicates to the same, you're welcome to it. So the idea is you can make this as ornate as you want, or you can make it as simple as you want. And there is no wrong or right. Some people really like, I call them their 22 pages of greatness. And if that's you, that's wonderful. If you want to have your testimonials in here, if you want to have letters your clients written, I'm kind of more of a meat and potatoes girl. I just put in really, the questions that are going to come up. But if you wanted to make yours much more ornate and have, maybe different organizations that you belong to, you certainly could do that. You can make them as long as you want. I wouldn't want them to be too long because you don't want to be there 3 hours trying to go through your what I call pages of greatness. But you can put in anything that is custom to you. And I'm going to show you how to do that so that yours is different than anyone else's. Okay. All right. So let's go back to cloud for just a second. So as you can see, I've done quite a few CMAs. When you're going into your CMA, after you've created it, the biggest thing is just how do you want to present it? As I mentioned, if you want to present it in a PDF fashion, you're just going to click PDF. As you can see over here, it's downloading that PDF. You simply open it up and it's exactly what we just looked at. But I also mentioned at the beginning is there's this great new interactive CMA that I love. And I think we've all wanted some of this stuff for a long, long time. So if I'm looking for that interactive, I'm just going to click on view the live version. Now, the nice thing about this is you can still have all of your custom pages, but you can do some things in the interactive version you can't really do with the PDF. What I mean by that is, let's say your seller is out of town and you want to be able to present this to him. You can actually present your CMA via live streaming, just kind of like we're doing right now. You can use via Zoom. You can do via Microsoft Teams. You can use Skype, Google Hangouts, or Screen, and you can actually present your CMA in a way that even if you can't be with them, you can go through it screen by screen. You could just click start your presentation to go through your CMA. You can also in here add a video resume. So I helped an agent do theirs not that long ago, and they were a new agent. They actually took one of our new agent classes called Roadmap to Success. And she said, Kyle, I was just kind of hoping to have a little video of shaking hands with my seller in front of the sign as my agent testimonial, or kind of my agent resume, if you will. So what we did is we just with my cell phone, we took a picture and a little bit of video about how she helped her seller sell and that they sold in just a couple of days. And she used that as her video resume. And you can insert that right into your CMA. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in a minute. So you can do a little bit more. It's a little more interactive, but let me show you my favorite pieces of this. Of course, you can hit start presentation and go through the whole thing. But I want to show you really the pieces I think make it special. So we're going to jump over to comps here. So here are the 3 comps. I like that it tells you what comp was closest to the home. I like that, of course, it's displaying all the closed information. I like that it tells you what was the most expensive comp. But I also like that it tells you if the lot size was bigger or smaller, if it had additional parking spaces, if it had additional bathroom. As you can see here, this has an additional half bath. So it sort of lays out the differences so that I can go through them. But here's what I really like. Remember how I said my friend Marietta, she is always very, very prepared. So let's say she did her CMA 3 days ago, and now she's sitting with Mr. Schmagegi, and Mr. Schmagegi says, well, what about that house over there on Other Street? It's very close to this house. And maybe didn't choose that because it wasn't the right comp. But it used to be that we'd have to go, well, I'll check on that. Let me go back to the office, or let me try to pull it up on I miss HomeSnap. Let me pull it up on HomeSnap or now homes.com, which I don't like near as much, but that's okay. So all you have to do in that case is you can actually click on the dot. So we go to Other Street, we pull it up, and you can see all of the details right here. Now, this is what I love. Let's say that this was a good comparable. And at this time, when I was doing the CMA, actually, this wasn't closed yet. So let's say, you know what? I'm looking at this. This is a really good comparable. Attached garage, same square footage, same bath, same bedroom. Let's use this. I'm going to go ahead and slide the toggle over and say, include this in my comps. Now, when I go back to my comps here, do you see how it just immediately moved that in for us? Now, instead of saying, well, let me check on that, or hold on, let me pull that up, with one toggle, I've now added that comparable right into the mix. Or sometimes, as I mentioned, you're looking at it and you can see that it's clearly nothing like their home. So if you click on it and you go, well, actually, that's a story and a half. And actually, that had an additional bedroom and about 500 more square feet. And it's really not a compare. I'm at least able to address that with the seller while I'm sitting with them. So I love this. I think this is something we've needed for so long. Of course, you can break down the statistics from here. If you decide to not use a particular comp, you can also remove it without having to start all over. So I love that when you're presenting this to the seller, everything is here so that I can, if I didn't add a particular comp, I can still go through it with them and maybe why I didn't add it in. It's as easy as just finding the map and pulling in the property they're talking about. So again, if I'm looking over here on Erkey, I'm going to click on it. It's going to show me that property over here to the left, and then we can decide if, in fact, that was a true comp. All right, so I think for me, I think that this is something that's sort of a game changer, especially when I give you that example of stepping in on blue shag carpeting. And you want to make that adjustment instead of having to run to the bathroom and try to rip your suggested list price out. Much easier when you can just change it on the fly. All right. So hopefully you're impressed by what Cloud has in the way of CMAs. Again, you're going to make the CMA the exact same way, but it's how do you want to present it? Do you want to view it in a PDF? You could also print that out if you wanted to. You could present it in that live fashion. You can also even go up here and you could email it. Most of the time I'm presenting it live, so I usually use that live version, but it's just personal preference. All right, so how do you get started? How do you get all of this and build our CMA? So let's start there. So the first thing is we want to do our homework. So let's say for just a moment that Marietta got a call. She's got an interested seller. She's going to go over and take a look at the listing tomorrow and give them a great CMA. Where do you start with the details? And the first place I like to start is really when it comes to, has the property been listed before? Okay, because if the property has been listed before, I want to have that previous listing record right in my CMA. So I can see, and I usually do that, by the way, by going right up here to the top. And by the way, I know you're probably thinking, why does she have the 4th of July theme on? Well, it's the election time, and quite honestly, that's all everybody's talking about. So I just put the election theme up. That's why I'm calling it. But what I want to do is I want to go up to that top power search. I'm just going to type in the address here, and I can see this property has been listed 3 times. So I'm going to go ahead and click on all 3 listing records because I'm going to start doing my homework. That's going to bring up all 3, and let me blow this up a little bit so you can see it. That's going to bring up all 3 of the listings. Now, I really want the last listing for when they bought it. That's going to be part of my CMA. But a couple cool things you can do here. There are 2 icons that are right here. So of course, I want to print this. My good friend Lisa will tell you always click the print plus. I think she says that in every tech call that she gets, print plus, print plus. So you could print it if you wanted to have a copy, or you could print it as a PDF and pull it into your CMA. So that's the first thing I want. I want the listing record. Second thing I want is the public details, the public records. So in order to get that, I don't want to have to log out and now go into another program, type in the address, wait for it to load. No, that these colorful little icons are right here. So if I want the real list record, simply going to click on that red button and it's going to pull up all the details for me in Realist. Now I love this because it's showing me exactly, it's giving me the detail basically to find my comparables, right? It's telling me who owns the property, what the taxes are. But as I go down, I'm seeing a lot more information than just that. I can see that the MLS says it's built on a basement. I can see the lot size. I can see the year it was built. This happens to be my grandmother's home, so I do know that that's when it was built. The MLS says it's 1 story. Every once in a while, and Lisa actually taught me this, you'll see a discrepancy between MLS and tax. So you'll see again, it'll say MLS 2 stories. And tax 1 story, kind of going back to that previous story. So you'll see if there are any discrepancies. Down here, it's going to break everything down. If it has gone to sheriff's sale, I'm going to see that in this history. If it was a quick claim deed, if it, and this happens to be again when it was transferred from my grandmother when she passed. So it was there, all of this detail is right in front of me, but I now want to pull this in and I want to save this as a PDF. So what I generally do is I go up to where it says print. I just print this as a PDF. And by doing that, I'm saving that record. So here's that record. So I can pull it right into my cloud CMA because I want to have where I got their details from. When they say, well, where did you get this square footage? I want to be able to produce that record. Okay, so hopefully that's making sense. The other thing I want to show you is the BSNA record. Now, the cool thing is, and I realize sometimes we have people on our classes that are coming in from other MLSs. The cool thing is my real source offers BSNA for several counties at no cost. And why it's important to know is BSNA has just upped their prices to $6 a property record. So I want to kind of explain this because this might not apply to everybody on the call. So let me kind of explain it. If you are with one of our vendor MLSs, like if you are with Midland, or if you're with Bay, or if you are with Saginaw, any of our 9 UPAR, any of our 9 vendor MLSs, not every area has good BSNA records. I know we're working up in the UP to try to get those records cleaned up. Really, the problem with Michigan public records is we are 6th worst in the nation for our tax records. I mean, that is a shame. I really wish Michigan realtors would help with this cause. We've asked them time and again, this is something we really need help with. When you close a home in California, those homes are closed with so much information about the property that's required. So the information is really good, and you're getting like 70 fields of information. We might get 9 or 10 in some areas, and a lot of times it's not even correct. That is a shame, and that is something that should be handled, I think, at a state level. But being that we're 6th worst in the nation, one of the things is, we're going in there, we're looking at the tax records. I want to be able to pull those tax records in, but it's $6 a pop for the record. I think that is insane. There should be something done about that. Public records are that. The public should be able to go in and investigate their home. Has there been a fire? Are there assessments on it? As well as we, the trusted professionals, should be able to see that information. So what we've been trying to do at my real source, and again, this may not be the case if you're with one of the vendor MLSs. Some of them do, some of them do not. If you are with the vendor MLSs, you want to check with your board. Like I know ECAR does provide for Genesee County, they provide the BSNA records at no cost. They're $6 a record. That means the member isn't paying it, but the association is. So let me explain. My real source members actually receive St. Clair County, Genesee County, Macomb County, the 5 Grosse Points. We added another one just a couple of weeks ago. I think it's Sanilac. And so if you are searching for property records and you're a My Real Source member and you use the button I'm about to show you, Instead of you having to get your credit card out and pay for that record, you can use this button, and we still have to pay for it. It sends us the bill though, and not you. So it's a nice way we found we could give back, because we want our members to have all of the data. What we really want is for our state legislation to even improve on the data that's there. Because I was up in Caseville recently, and there is like no public records up there. And I know it's kind of seasonal, and I get it, but we should always be able to find that data. There, you go to California, you can find every parcel. And here, we have whole areas, whole counties that have such limited information about property. So, all right, so that's my soapbox. But the reason I'm telling you that is if you use this, and I apologize, it kind of looks like a trash can icon. It is not supposed to. It's supposed to look like a government pillar, by the way. Brian assured me, he said, Colleen, it's a government pillar. And I said, okay, when you smushed it onto the button, it now looks like a trash can. And so that government pillar is where you can go in and you can access that BSNA record. So this government pillar that you see right here, if I click on that, that's going to pull me directly into BSNA for that specific property. So instead of having to go log into BSNA, and then put in the property address, wait for that to load, then get my credit card out and pay the $6, it's actually taking me there right away, and I didn't have to pay anything, as you saw. Now, again, that's only some associations provide that, some MLSs do not. So it just depends on which MLS that you're with, and really how good the tax information is. If your MLS doesn't provide it, it might be because the tax information is very limited in your area. Okay. So the next thing I wanted to show here is this is also a great source. So I'm looking at the BSNA record, took me right in. I can see it's 3 bathrooms, half bath, full bath, when it was built, square footage, on the basement, all of that is here. I can also see the tax information. If the taxes were paid, if they're not paid, if there's outstanding tax bills, I can see that as well. Assessments for the building department, and many of them, as I mentioned, now carry water. It'll say utility, and you can even print that off. What I do is I simply print these as a PDF. This is showing you that there was some work done and there was a permit pulled. And I like to have this in my CMA so I can go through it with that seller. So I can ask them about if they redid the kitchen. Well, I certainly want to know that. I see you have a permit here for, redoing your kitchen. Tell me about that. Because those are things that I might want to add on as an upgrade. I might want to add an adjustment in for that $10,000 remodel in the kitchen. So those are all great questions to ask. When I'm ready to include this in my CMA, again, I just go to this print button. I'm going to print it as a PDF and pull it in. One more thing is you never really want to, because of copyright law, and because of agents paying to have their photographers go out and get photos, you never want to use MLS photos. But this is a public record photo, which means it was actually done by the municipality. In this case, this is a pretty decent shot of the home. And what I probably want to do is, if I'm not going to go over to the home ahead of time and take photos, I might want to use this as my front cover. I might even want to clean it up a little. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to right click on the photo. And I'm just going to save that image. I'm going to put that on my desktop. We're going to call it class example. And I'm going to say front of home. So I recommend, instead of those ugly Google overhead shots as your cover, just use the public records photo if you're not going to go get photos ahead of time. It's just an easy way to make your cover look a little bit nicer. All right, so I'm gathering all of my information. I can see that the basement is finished. I can see the size of the garage. All of this is included. So now I want to get that last piece of outside information. What I told you was one of my favorite programs, right? So I've got my MLS ticket for what they bought. And by the way, it'll show you what they purchased the home for. I can see Ed Martin, my good friend Ed Martin, was the selling agent. I can see that it's sold with conventional financing. I can see what the concession amounts were. They did have concessions of $2,000. I can see when it closed. So again, I'm kind of doing my homework, right? I'm putting all the details together so I can get the price and accurately tell them what they're going to get for their home. So I've got all this detail, but what about educating the seller on what's going on in the market? That's where we're going to go back to resources. That's where we're going to go to what's under social media and lead gen, but it's called market stats. Makes sense. Remember that statistical graph that we looked at? But I'm going to show you the easy way to do it. I'm always looking for the easy button, so let me show you. When you click on market stats, it's going to open up a bunch of graphs that you could post out onto social media, but that's not what I want to do here. I want something quick and easy. So I'm going to just click on fast stats right up here at the top. I'm also going to click on what county is my subject property in. So I'm going to say it's in Macomb County, and let's choose Shelby. I actually choose Sterling Heights. I'm going to use Sterling Heights. Just like that, with my 2 clicks, I've actually created that same graph that we took a look at in our CMA. As we can see, the numbers are a little different now, though. From last August, there's always a rolling month behind, remember, because it has to gather all the data. So from last August to this, we're down only about 16%. Still seeing a lack of inventory, so we can still see our sales price has gone up. Now I want to print this as a PDF and put it in my listing folder because I want to pull that into my CMA as well. So let me show you one more time where you're going to find it, because I know I'm going through a lot of information. You're probably thinking, that lady with the fuzzy hair, she talks so fast. How am I going to remember all this? Well, that's exactly why we're recording it, so don't worry. But you're going to go back to resources. We're going to go market stats. But we don't want to do any extra work, so we're going to go right up to our fast stats. We're going to pick our county. And let's pick a different state. Let's do Shelby this time. And open up our PDF, and it's starting to tell our story. All right. So really easy ways to show the homeowner exactly what's going on, whether it's a condo or traditional. Remember, condos are listed down below. We're going to pull that into our CMA as well. It's a really great way to educate the seller without doing a lot of work. It looks like you spent hours preparing, but really we're just gathering all the details to help that homeowner price their home correctly. All right. So where do you take all this information? Where do you actually start your CMA? And that happens to be right under search. Whenever you're doing a CMA, it's always best to use the full class search, meaning if you're listing a single family home, you want to go to search instead of doing it in the quick search. I would not recommend that. I would go to search, residential, and I'm going to start filling in my information. Now, my last class, somebody said, well, Colleen, your search looks completely different. I don't have zip code in my search. Don't worry. Remember, you can add or remove any of the fields in your search. So even if you see something on my screen that you don't have, don't worry. You can always go to customize your fields and you can add or remove something. So if you find you're always having to scroll down to the important stuff, don't be afraid to customize that. I hated that when I started using Paragon. Like, why do you make me go to the bottom for like year built? That's ridiculous. So if you want to move something up, or you want to change the order, or you want to add a field that you don't see here, don't be afraid to do that. That's the nice thing about Paragon versus other MLSs. So if I want to remove zip code, I can click on fields. And I could say, you know what? I'm not going to search. Actually, I was teaching in Detroit recently, and they said Detroit is so big, we have to search on zip codes. And they were really struggling with setting up their searches. So this was a big way that we helped them by allowing them to search by that field. So if there's something you don't want in there, simply remove it. However, some of my favorite things are way down here at the bottom, and I don't like that. So remember, if you wanted to move something, you could simply drag and drop it into the location you want. So if there's something way down on the list and you don't want it to be there, you can just drag it up into that order and then just apply it. So you can add things in, add custom fields in that are going to help you. And as you can see, zip code isn't there anymore, but I moved my county and area way up to the top because that's something I fill in quite often. If you're brand new to Paragon and you don't know what goes in a specific field, remember you can always use the magnifying glasses to the right and it will show you, do you want to use condo, farm, single family? What are you looking for? Of course, now we want to put in some basics to get the right comparables. But I am not going to search by area or county. I'm going to show you a few tricks because I want to know what comps is an appraiser going to use for this home. So the first thing I'm going to change is I do want to know what it's going to sell for. I don't care about rentals. Of course, the absolute most important status is going to be closed, right? That's where we're deriving the numbers. However, I'm a huge Floyd Wickman fan, as I mentioned before, and he always would say if you're going to go sit at someone's kitchen table, they know everything in their neighborhood that's on the market, and you better have it in your CMA too. So I'm also going to include all actives and anything pending. Now, how far in this area is an appraiser going to go back? Well, the market's constantly changing. So I'm going to say that really an appraiser in this market is going to go 6 months back. I'm not going to put in anything like price because, quite honestly, that's what I'm trying to determine, right? So I'm going to scroll down. I do know that this is a ranch style home. We saw that in all the pictures and it said it on all the tax reports. I do know that it had 3 bedrooms. And I do know that it had a bath and a half. So I could put 1 to 2. But here's a little secret. And you may not know this. I did not know this until my good friend Lisa taught it to me. Right over here, there is a scroll bar. If you scroll all the way to the bottom, you see this little box that says secondary criteria that no one in the world knows is there? Did you know if you click that little drop down, even though it doesn't look like anything happens, did you know it actually opens up a whole set of other criteria? Yes, I know. I found that ridiculous that no one ever told me that before, Lisa. And if you want it to be even more specific, you could say full baths and half baths. Year built is in here, acreage. Now, I'm going to be honest, in my real searches, I try to set this up the way it comes out of the box so I can show it in the classes. But in my real searches, I have moved all of these features out of this box and up in the top box because I think it's stupid to have to go and open a second box. I just don't even understand the concept. So acreage, year built, bathrooms, those are really important for us. Now, did I leave originating MLS? Yeah, I probably did. But most of these other ones, I've moved up to the top box just for convenience. But that's the nice thing about doing the customization, right? You can put them where you want them. All right, so let's go back up. So we put in our things like our bedrooms, our bathrooms. Yes, it had a basement. Yes, it had a garage. And if you wanted to add additional things, like maybe you're looking to filter your comps to attached garage, well, you could type in attached. There's so low amount of inventory right now, though, I really don't recommend adding in features. I'm just going to see how many we have with just the basics, because quite honestly, there's just not enough listings out there. But another good example is square footage. And I've always wondered about this. So I started asking appraiser friends years ago, what do you use as an appraiser for square footage? So if it's a 5,000 square foot colonial, are you going to compare it to a 1,000 square foot brick ranch? Generally, no. Now, sometimes if you're in a rural area, if you're out in the country or, or you have a home that's so unique, you do have to expand what I'm going to cover here, meaning that, it may not be the same if you're listing out in the middle of nowhere and there's not another comp, for 4 miles. Maybe there's not even another home for 4 miles around. So sometimes if you're in rural areas or it's a really challenging home to comp, you do have to expand. So I'm going to show you the basics and kind of how to expand it without going too far. So asking appraisers, what is the square footage rule? And they all say the same thing. I think I've asked about 19 over the years. It's 20%. So we saw that in this home, the square footage was 1361. So if I figure 20% of that, it's going to be about 1,050 on the bottom end. And then it's going to be about 15. I'm just doing this roughly in my head. So if you can do it faster than I am, then God bless you. But just going to do a rough 20% in my head. So 1361 was our square footage. So I'm figuring out that 20%, which comes out to 272. And I'm taking 272 off that 1361 and then 272 on top of that 1361 to give us our price, our square footage range. So I'm basically just filling in as much as I know about my subject property without putting in things like features, fireplaces, attached garage, just so we can get all of the comps to review. Now you're probably thinking at this point, okay, lady with the big fuzzy hair, you have 11,000 comps. You will be doing a CMA there forever. And you would be right, but we didn't put in obviously the most important thing, which is going to be location, location, location. But I don't want to just put in an area. I'm not interested in everything in Sterling Heights. I'm interested in what's around that property. So I'm going to go into search by map. When your map opens up, as you're going to see here, it actually opens up to your office address. You can change this in your preferences, by the way, so don't worry. But what I really want to do is I want to hone my map to exactly where my subject property is. So I'm going to go up to this box, this little filter box right here, and I'm going to type in the route street address, which means this happens to actually be Wessel Drive. You want to leave off the drives, the ways, the courts, the avenues, because this uses Google Maps. And if you put in too much information, I guarantee you it will actually not produce a result for you. So here's what you need to know. Put in just the route street name, then comma, and then the city. If you do that, I promise it'll pull it right up for you. Sometimes, if they're that address, remember this is a nationwide program, Google Maps, right? So sometimes if there is a, let's say, because there's a Richmond, Virginia, right? There's a, sometimes if the same address is in Richmond, Virginia, it may pull that up. In that case, you would do comma the state, the two letters of the state. So VA if you're looking in Virginia, MI in Michigan. But in this case, 90% of the time, all you need to do is put in the route street address and comma the city. Then you're going to click that magnifying glass. It's going to take you right to your subject property. And you see it right here. Now I want to do what an appraiser is going to do in this area. In this area, an appraiser is going to stay within 1 mile. So I'm going to click search radius. And you see, I've just created that 1 mile radius that's now pulling in some of those comps. So if this one happens to be closed, I can see it closed at 409. I could go right, click this number and go right into the MLS ticket. If I wanted to see what was active, I can simply click on the green ones. It's going to show me right over here. By the way, if you see these little clusters, that just means that the flags were very close together. If you click on the cluster or you just zoom in, you can do it either way. You can see all of the details. All right, so here's some other things that I did not know. If you're, let's say that Marietta is taking a listing and it's 2.5 hours away, it's her, let's say her daughter's, and she kind of just wants to check out the neighborhood. She doesn't want to drive all the way up there, then come back and do her CMA, and then drive all the way back out for her listing appointment. Here's a little tip. If you kind of want to just check out the neighborhood, then grab your little yellow Google guy over here. I know we see him on everything, but nobody really ever plays with him, so we don't know really what he does, right? So if you grab that little yellow Google man, you can actually see exactly where you're going to set him in front of, by the way. It'll allow you to walk down the street and check out the entire neighborhood. I can see properties to the left. I can see properties to the right. I'll show you some other cool things. So I can actually, so if I want to see, what does the neighbor look like? Am I going to have to recommend a privacy fence when I get there? You can actually do that right from here. One of the other things that I want to show you is as I'm walking through the neighborhood, you see this little subject flag? That subject flag is the address that we typed in. So not only can I walk down the neighborhood, but I can actually see in front of the property that I've got that listing appointment on this evening. So I love that. I never knew that it did that. So if you haven't played with it, definitely check it out. It also allows your clients to do that in the Collab Center. Another great product that is built into Paragon, so you can set up your buyers and they automatically get new listings. Okay, so now we've got our 1 mile radius, but then there's always those hard ones. So I'll give you a good example. We'll just pretend for a moment so we can stay on this map without doing anything extra. But let's pretend for a moment that this is this Dodge Park in Clinton River. We're going to pretend for a moment that this happens to be waterfront, like Lake St. Clair. And I'm going to say, oh, I see my good friend Rhonda Snooks is on the call. So we're going to say that Rhonda is having a great year. She listed these three properties right here, and they're $1 million waterfront listings. So way to go, Rhonda. She's always listing really great houses, but she's got these $3 million waterfront listings here. And I'm listing this little brick ranch off that's nothing special. So if I pull in Rhonda's $1 million waterfront properties, guess what that's going to do to my CMA? It's not going to be too good. So here is a little tip that I didn't know. You can actually exclude an area from your radius. Let me show you how easy it is. So we've got our 1 mile radius, but I want to basically draw an area I want to exclude. So we're going to say that Rhonda's got these $3 million listings. I am just going to I'm going to say I don't want any comps that are going to fall on the waterfront. Not that I don't love Rhonda and these great listings, but it's not going to be anything like my subject property. So how do I exclude it? Now you're probably thinking, okay, lady with the fuzzy hair, you've just basically drawn a shape on a shape and it didn't do anything. Well, there's one more step. You're going to go over to edit, and you're going to change it from includes to, you're going to change it from includes to exclude. Helps if you click on the right spot. As you can see, it's actually going to make that shape red, and it removed Rhonda's $1 million waterfront listings, all three of them. So it's basically saying, don't show me any comps that are on the water because they're not like my little brick ranch that's not on the water, right? It's allowing me to be a little more custom. There's also a subdivision not far from where I live where the 1 mile radius brings in all of the new construction side of the sub that I was there to list, but it also brings in all the 1930 style brick ranches in that neighborhood. Well, those aren't going to be anything like the new construction. So it also allowed me to actually go in and draw the line where the new construction started, and then exclude those 1930 style brick ranches. You could also do that by entering a price range or a year built range too. I just thought it was a little easier to start and stop where I could see them on the map. It made a little bit more sense for me. So you can always go in and you can always draw a shape on the shape to remove an area like waterfront, or maybe maybe there's an area over by the train tracks where the houses are nothing like the one you're listing and you want to exclude that from your comps. You can do it very easily instead of having to go back and deselect a whole bunch that you really didn't want. Okay, so if you make a mistake, remember you can always just click that X and you can remove that shape altogether. But here's another good example. Let's say that, Tom Ronselli, so many great names on the call today. So Tom Ronselli is looking, he's getting ready to list a property. He's looking and there's not a lot on the market. So Tom says, you know what? I think what I'm going to do is I put in 1 mile, but I'm not pulling in anything. Tom could go up and he could say, okay, let's search 1.5 miles or 2 miles or 2.25 miles. I mean, you could be as specific as you wanted to in your radius search. But what if I told you you don't have to do that? What if I told you if you just wanted to open your circle up a tiny bit to see if you could pull in some additional comps, that it's very easy to do that. So if you go to your radius right here and you click into the middle, you see how it creates these little dots? So let's say Tom didn't get any comparables. He put in all the criteria, he didn't get any, but he doesn't really want to do a bigger circle. He just wants to slowly open that circle a little bit to see if maybe he just wants to pull it open a tiny bit to see, is there one just a street or two away? So again, by clicking in here, you can use these circle dots to actually expand your search. So I can grab them and open up just a little bit, maybe to see if a street away, if I could pull open another comparable. So that just allows you to basically edit your shape. I can open it up. I'm going to just open it a little bit to kind of show that comparable there. And you can see I brought two more. I was trying to do that and bring a couple more in, but I wasn't opening it big enough. So you can see I just brought in two more comparables by doing that. So it allows you, instead of doing a huge radius or a big target, I can open it just to where I need it. So again, when you're ready to close up that shape, I can see that clearly I have enough comparables now. Now I'm going to go back in and I am going to run my search. If I have too many properties, I can always go back in and adjust my criteria. I've added some actives and pendings, so I do want to see what I've returned. So I know that this one had, I'm just going to say 1 to 2 baths. You could be even more specific. So I'm looking at about 16 results here. Oh, 12 when I put that in. So I'm going to go ahead and hit my search. Now, on average, I know I'm going through all the bells and whistles. On average, that's going to take you between probably about 6 to 7 minutes. Remember, that's really the hardest part of your CMA. The hardest part of your CMA is finding your comparables in Paragon. The rest is really already done for you, as I'm about to show you. One other thing, I always get a lot of questions on this screen. In being an agent for 25 years now, I have been so blessed. I have worked with predominantly wonderful agents. I'm so blessed to work alongside people like Rhonda, and I've known Tom for. We've never done a deal yet, though, Tom. So we're gonna have to do that one day. But and Marietta, so many great agents that I've had the pleasure of working with over the years. But every once in a while, you get that agent, you know who I'm talking about, the ones that don't return your phone calls, and you're in crisis mode trying to come up with an idea to put a deal back together, and they're not even answering, and you're at your pinnacle of frustration. Most of the time, that doesn't happen. Most of the time, I've been very blessed to work with really good agents. Once in a while, you get one of those. And, if you're showing properties specifically, I like to see in my search results who has the property listed. Not that I wouldn't show their property, but if I'm gonna show a property, I'm gonna show Rhonda's or Tom Roncelli's or one of the agents I've had a great experience. I'm gonna show them first. They're always gonna be at the top of my list. So keep in mind, one of the things you can add, just like I showed you, you can add in other fields for searching. You can add what you want your search results to contain. So great agents like Lisa, I want to see Lisa that listed that property, or Tom Roncelli listed that property right in my search results. So when I'm going through, I can see if I have any questions. I know exactly who listed the property. And especially if you're getting ready to show properties, I like to have that listing agent name right in my search results. Just another case of you can customize to put whatever you want there. Go up to that customized field, and that's where I can see, oh yeah, Tom Roncelli has that property listed. All right. So I also have a little OCD. And when I look at this, it just makes me anxious. So for me, I like to have all my actives with my actives, my closed with my closed, my pending with my pending, to see what I'm looking at, because closed are most important. And when you're doing a CMA, you're really shooting for 3 to 5 is your goal in comps. Now, does it always work out that way? No. Sometimes if it's a really unique home, you may only get one. I hate when that happens. Of course, other factors in here would be things like school district. Again, if you're searching in Detroit, that can be a little different too. Adding in the zip code can help pull that in as well. But when I've got my search results in front of me, I want to go up to the top of the column here, and I want to adjust it so actives are with actives, pendings are with pendings, closed are with closed. So I want to show that there are two active, basically competition they're going to have in their neighborhood, right? Now I'm going through it. If we had more time, by the way, I would like to go through each one of these comps, because I really am looking for about 5 closed comps if I can find them. So because I don't have time to go through every single one right now, I'm just going to grab 5 here just for our example. Really, as the trusted agent, we do want to go through. We want to see the photos. Have they been updated? Are they similar? But I can also see I have one I have one looks like one pending, and I have one uh let's see, well, is that one? Yeah, I'll add that one in. All right. So I've got my keep showing, I've got my pending, I've got my active, I got my 5 closed. And if I had more time, to be totally honest, I would like to go through and look at each comparable and make sure they're right. Again, you would add things like school district, those basic things. Year built would be another one. Obviously, I don't want to compare this 1973 home to a home that was built last year. It's going to be obviously very different in price. But now I've got the comps I want to use. And because I have OCD, I hate the way this looks. So here's a little tip. If you go to where it says checked right here, I now just want to use the ones that I've selected. So that's all I want. All right, if you remember nothing else from this class today, except that that lady with the fuzzy hair talks really fast to get it all in, remember the importance of the easy button. The easy button is located right here in your toolbar. See where it says actions right here? Think of that as your easy button. If you just remember, the hardest part is picking your comparables in Paragon, clicking on that actions button and pulling them over into Cloud CMA. The rest is a cakewalk, I promise you. So I'm going to click actions, and it's going to say, what do you want to do with your properties? Well, if I was showing buyers around, I would pick the first option. If I was scheduling a property tour, I could use showing time. But in this case, I'm just pulling them all into Cloud CMA. So instead of me rekeying all of those like we used to have to do in the old days, it's taking all of those listings and bringing them right over to cloud. First thing is you want to name your CMA. So we're going to call this Mrs. Happy Seller. Second thing, you can put private notes in if you want to sort of keep track of things for yourself. But now I want to type in our address because it's actually going to find that in the tax records for me. As you can see, it's loading in 3 bedrooms, 1 bath. You can change it. So again, it didn't pull in the square footage, but I'm going to put that in there. Now I want to upload that BSNA photo. Remember I told you that I want to have that front home photo that we found today? Maybe I even want to kind of crop the car out of it a little bit so it's a little front and center. You could even do that. So the idea is you could make it smaller, you can make it larger, but I want to have that front photo instead of that ugly Google overhead shot. I want to have that nice front photo right there. Cloud CMA is literally just it's 3 tabs and publish. Publish is just save. If you go in to make any changes to your CMA at any point, you just want to make sure that you hit that publish again. But if you just follow the little green buttons right here, it'll walk you through the rest. So I've got my photo, got my subject property information. Next, it's pulling in all of those listings for me from Paragon. So as I mentioned, the hardest part, remember, was going into Paragon, finding the comparables. Now on this screen, this is basically one more view for the agent. This is not what the consumer is going to see. They're going to get the nice shiny report I showed you in the beginning. This is so you can take one more look at it. So maybe Rhonda's looking at it. She's like, oh, I didn't want to include that 329. That's just too, I'm not going to show that one. She can deselect it from here and it's not going to show up in her report now. However, they've added some new things just recently that I love. So let me show you a couple of those. Where it says notes and adjustments, you now can, just like I remember the days to do my CMA, and I'd have those sticky notes all over it, like there's an extra bathroom. There's a, this was a larger lot, or this one didn't have a finished basement, whatever it happened to be. You can do the same thing now. You can go into notes and maybe you want to point out it's the only home that, or let's say only home that didn't have a detached garage, whatever you want it to say. You can click add note and then that's going to appear as you're going through your CMA. Then down below, there's a place for adjustments. You can do positive or negative adjustments. And what's kind of funny about this is I wish I was like that. What's her name? Joanna Gaines, where she'd go into a house and she'd like, if you just knock this wall down and we're going to do this and it's going to bring you 40 grand worth of value. I am not that girl. I wish I was. I wish I could figure out those values in my head like she does. However, did you know that through RPR, the Realtor Property Resource, did you know you have a tool that you can actually go in and put in the type of adjustment, like updated kitchen or remodeled kitchen, or things like doesn't have a garage? Did you know you can actually go into RPR and it will give you, based on the parcel, and why it's based on the parcel is if you, let's say you just put 30 grand into a kitchen in California, that is of course going to be worth a lot more than 30 grand in the kitchen in, I don't know where I am in Richmond, right? So what it does is it takes that parcel and it asks you, the agent, a series of questions, and it actually creates a value that you can use. Now, why I bring that up is because sometimes you'll go into a home and the seller has unrealistic expectations, right? And sometimes instead of insulting them with your opinion, it's really nice when you can actually slide a piece of paper in front of them and say, well, I know you think that the $30,000 you put into your kitchen should bring you $100,000 in return, but it doesn't work that way, right? I could say that and I could risk offending that homeowner. Or I could simply go to RPR and use this tool, and I could slide in front of them the report that says actually $30,000 should bring you an additional $4,000 or $5,000 on your home. And it actually creates a value in a report that many flippers use, by the way, that you can put in your CMA that shows that, yeah, I know you think it's worth 100,000, but actually here's what it actually would bring you. And it's a real dollar amount. So I think it's a very cool tool. If we have time at the end and you want to see it, if you type in the questions, I'd like to see where to find it. I'd be happy to show it to you. It's not really part of this class, but I found it helpful because I never know what those values are. If it doesn't have a garage, how do I know what's the negative adjustment for not having a garage? So it does some cool things like that. So if you're interested, put it in the questions. And if we have time, we'll go into that. All right. So the other thing you could do is you can also arrange what order you basically want these in, because sometimes you want to put them in a particular order. Maybe you don't want to have your lowest comp first. You can also see all of the detail. The MLS photos are here, so it kind of gives you one last look at it. You can do a net sheet. Now, I'm going to be honest, I don't like the net sheet. I don't use it. I use the net sheet in zip form or transaction desk, and I pull it in. And the reason is it's much, much easier. I'm already in there filling out my listing paperwork anyway. But it also does all the calculations for me. This one, you can save the items, but you got to do the math every time. So I wasn't a big fan of that is the one thing I don't use in here, which is the the seller's net sheet. However, I do like that you can put in your suggested list price or your suggested list price range. So I can kind of see from the numbers right here that the average right now is 308. You can kind of see it right over here. So I'm going to say maybe I want to go in with a range of 305 to 310, whatever my suggested list price. Again, I would want to do a little more looking at the comps, but I'm going to go ahead and put in my suggested price range. So really all I'm doing is I'm taking one last look at the comps I've selected. The last thing I want to do is simply customize. How do I want my CMA to look? This is also the first time you go in and do this. This is where you want to make sure you have your company colored set up correctly. You know the information you want to be part of your template, and that's what we're going to look at now. But obviously, if you're with Remax, you don't want to show up with the Century 21 colors, right? You want the Remax balloons. So you gotta pick that in your theme. So under theme, you have a lot of options. I do recommend there's all kind of color schemes in here. I do know that both Real Estate One and Remax have paid a lot of money for their custom marketing that's in here. So if you are with either Remax or Real Estate One, you will actually see your branding in here. And let me tell you, that is not cheap, but they did a beautiful job putting in some great custom pages. So you'll find them under the theme. So you're just really picking your theme to make sure your colors match. Then how do you want your comps displayed? This is for comps only. Doesn't have anything to do with the style or color of your report. It's if you're printing it, you might want to have 4 comps on one page. For me, the one I like is the photo with max data. It gives you the most data on the home from the MLS, and I like the way it looks. You can also save templates. So if you've got this report all set up like you want, you could say this is Tom Ronselli's awesome listing template. Call it whatever you want. And I'm going to go ahead and save it. Now it's going to know every time I start and I want to apply my template, I can pick Tom Ronselli's awesome template. And it's got those 15 pages already saved in there for me. All right. The next thing is, what do you want to include? So each one of these pages, and when you first log in, it has everything in there. You don't want to have everything in there. So if you want your contact me page there, you kind of want to take a look at it. You can click on the page name and it's actually got your picture and your contact information in it. If there's a page you don't want, all you have to do is click the minus and it will float out. So think of it this way. Everything on the Your CMA report on this white box here, that's everything that's going to show up right now in your report. But maybe there's some things you want to add. So maybe I want to have all of the photos, not just the first 12 in there. Maybe I want a whole page that lists out adjustments. Maybe I want to talk about, there's some pre-written pages, as I mentioned in here. Maybe I want to add in, a particular page that talks about their type of real estate, or you can do testimonials or those custom pages. Remember, you can bring in anything as a custom page. I'm going to give you some examples that I've done. So yes, you can bring in the tax information, the BSNA information, the fast stats information. You can bring all of that in. But I want to show you one that I had an investor who had never seen the property. He was actually out of the country, and he said, hey, I have this home. I hear it's going to be worth a lot. Things are selling for a lot more in that area than when I bought them. He actually bought 4 or 5 homes in this Warren area. And he said, so let's get it on the market. And I went over there and it was a mess. Unfortunately, the homeowners had not taken good care, or I'm sorry, the people who were renting it had not taken good care of it. So I got there. First of all, it had no C of O. Second of all, they had ripped the cabinets off the wall. There was actually running water. They had just left a ton of junk there. And so what I did is I just took photos and I added that to the CMA. So when I got there, I actually had to shimmy off the water because, believe it or not, there was water all over that floor. They had obviously left some animals there, so the carpet was all stained, and they had left all the animal presents behind, which was not fun to find. But anyway, long story short, instead of telling him about the property, I just went and actually took some photos and put that in the CMA. So these are all great examples of what you can add to your CMA to really enhance it. So and these are just a few examples, by the way. Here, just a few examples of things that I added. I think I just closed that. Didn't need to do that. Open that back up. The good news is it does autosave, which you're about to see. So I can go back in to my Miss Happy Seller that I clicked on and somehow closed. And I can go right back into where I left off. So I'm going to go right back into my customize. And I can open up and make all those adjustments. So basically everything here is what's going to show up. Anything additional that you want to add in, you just click on that plus and it's going to float in. If you want to see what it looks like, you can simply click on the eye, or if you haven't ever created an agent resume, you can actually click edit and it will give you kind of a template that you can use. You can insert movies, you can insert photos, you can insert links, just to sort of spice up that page, that agent resume. Maybe you have a marketing plan of how you market your properties. That can be inserted too. And then the last step, it's just hitting publish. Once you publish a report, takes about 30 seconds. That's when of course, you'll get the upsell and advertising. Over here, you're going to see in about 30 seconds that will publish, and then you can go ahead and decide if you want to display it via PDF or if you want to use that live interactive. And I really recommend that. You can do so much more with that. But either way, you just are going to pick whether you want to do the PDF version, which I showed you in the beginning, or the live version. All right, the very last thing is I want to show you is how to get those custom pages in here. I talked about how bringing in the tax records, bringing in fast stats, bringing in all of that information is so crucial, but how do you get it in there so you can choose it from the list? So really, really easy to do. Right over here to the right, and hopefully your go-to meeting box is not covering it, but right over here to the right where you see my photo, where your avatar is or your photo, if you click on that, this is where you're going to see all different information. But one of those, this down a little bit here so you can see it better. One of those is custom pages. As I mentioned, they also have a great lead generation, a free tool that you can use. We do that in the other CMA class. But if I want to add in those custom pages, it's literally this simple. I'm going to click custom pages. And there's 2 ways. One, you could go into what they have is kind of like a bunch of templates they've set up for you. So if I wanted to go in and edit their marketing action plan that they've set up for me, I can simply click the pencil. Gives you some ideas of what that would be. And I can go in and edit, add my own photos, add links. Again, I can add movies. I can really tweak it so it reflects my marketing plan. However, maybe you want to create a brand new custom page. You want to call it something. You don't want to start with a template. You can do that. But most of us, 90% of us, are really going to bring in the tax records, the MLS ticket, the fast stats, all of that. So how do you bring those in? As you can see, I've got a lot from teaching so many classes. All you're going to do is you're going to go down to the bottom where it says upload a PDF. By the way, remember how I mentioned I like the net out sheets in Transaction Desk and Zip Form better? Here's why. I'm just going to kind of show you. I usually include those. I pull those in because you see how it does all the calculating for me. I put, what the brokerage fee is going to be. It's done figuring that, what the costs are going to be, and it calculates all that on the sales price. So I like that. It's a little bit easier for me. Again, it's just kind of personal preference. But when you want to bring those outside documents in, like the net outs, like the BSNA record that you see here, like the MLS listing ticket, all you're going to do is click upload your PDF, and you're just going to find that PDF. So let's say I'm just going to bring in my Collab Center handout because it's handy. I'm going to click upload. It's going to pull it right in to my documents here. Now it's part of my custom pages. So it's that easy. So you can use the templates that they already have set up for you, but most of us have great PDFs that we want to bring in, maybe talking about your team, talking about, your sales, things like that. So remember, now when you're ready to use those custom pages that you've pulled in, I'm going to go back to our Mrs. Happy Seller CMA here. I'm going to click on that edit button. And when I'm ready to pull in those custom pages, I'm just going to go to my customize area. And over here where my custom pages are, these are going to be all the custom pages that I pulled into Cloud. So the one we just brought in will be at the end. Go way, way down my list here. I should clean some of these out. There's my Collab Center handout. I'm going to go ahead and pull that in. Usually drops it at the bottom, but the nice thing about Cloud here is that you can drag and drop these in any order you want. So you can just put it wherever you want in your report. So again, that's where you're going to bring your BSNA record. It's going to be where you bring in maybe what sites you're going to advertise on. All those can be custom pages that you're pulling in. All right, so remember, I know you probably are like, wow, that's a lot of information, and it is. Remember, we recorded this class so that if you need to come back 4 months from now and you need a refresher, again, where you're going to find that and all of your tools in Paragon, under resources, you're going to find that education. If you joined us late, if you're looking for this class that was recorded, I'll have it uploaded probably by tomorrow. You're going to click on recorded webinars. And if you go right to the video section, it'll show you all of our great classes and Lisa's great class too. Speaking of Lisa, did we have any questions that you wanted to throw out there?
Actually, there's just one. UPAR was looking for market stats. Is that something they don't have access to? Is that correct?
I don't believe they have market stats turned on for UPAR. They have the statistical reporting at the end, but I do not believe right now that they have fast stats set up. I'll check on that though. If you
I could text you the name of the agent.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, if they ask that question, I can go back into the log too, and I can grab their contact information and send that. I don't think that they do, but off the top of my head, since there's 9 of them, I would just like to double check.
Thank you. I appreciate it. That is the only question.
Any other questions? Well, that's awesome. Thank you, Lisa, for helping out today. I appreciate it. Sometimes when we get 60 registered, it's hard to do questions and keep going through the presentation. So I can't tell you how much I appreciate you.
And Joe Anderson said that he loves both of us. Thanks, Joe. We appreciate it.
It's so nice to see Joe's name on here and Kathy Marsh. So many great names. It's always fun when you see so many friends on the call. So, but yes, so the class will be uploaded. And of course, remember there are a lot of upcoming custom classes, some brand new classes coming this fall too. Again, don't forget to check out the photography. We've got another round of the roadmap to success for new agents. So all of those are in the education corner. And again, you will find that under resources and under education. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. I hope you have an outstanding day. Please go and do a lot of CMAs so we can have some more inventory to sell because we're a little limited out there. And happy selling, all of you. Have a great day.
Bye, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. Bye, Colleen. Have a good day.
Bye, Lisa. You too.
Thanks.